Welcome, everybody, to the Making Awesome podcast. This is episode 196. We're talking about some DRM here, okay? And before we get too deep into it, I might have some opinions that people are going to disagree with. Because I'm going to say it up front. I don't think that all DRM is bad. I think there's some value to it. We're going to talk about why. In the consumer industry, I really don't believe that it is any good. Also using the completely wrong background, so we'll fix that. I do think that there is some value to it on the professional side. We're going to talk about why. But DRM and just generally having to rely on a single source provider has been a bit of a challenge lately. Any of you that have tried to do anything in the past 72 hours might know that basically half of the world was completely down because of CrowdStrike, a company that in their greatest possible idea decided to push an update on a Friday. You don't push updates on Friday. I'm not even in the tech industry, right? Like IT and all that. You don't push updates on Friday. And that means that pretty much every major company, except Southwest, like every major airliner except Southwest. I was down in Miami yesterday, the hotel that we stayed at. They had to like manually write down all the information for the credit card. And I'm like, boy, if I wanted to do some really mean things, it is now super simple to steal a stack of credit card numbers because they literally had a stack of people that had checked in that day. Yoink. And that's it. And like the papers were up. If you had a cell phone, you were able to take photos of people's credit card numbers, CVC codes, addresses, expirations, everything you would need to theoretically clone a card. And yeah, it kind of got me thinking on single source reliance and DRM. Because, last week we talked a lot of it, about the Micronix acquisition by Formlabs. And one of the things that Formlabs and Micronix agreed to give the backers of Micronix was an open materials license. And I did not see as many people talking about that as I expected, right? Because those that don't know, Formlabs machines are DRM controlled. That's digital rights management, I think. I'm fairly certain that's the correct term for it. But they chip everything, right? And without a license, there's no like easy way of getting around it other than refilling the bottles. So they're not gonna tell people exactly how to do it, but yeah, I do believe there is some value to it on the enterprise side. We're going to talk about specifically why. But no one really talked about the value of having that open materials license, because I think that open materials license is something like a few $1,000s, right? But I was seeing a lot of people talking about just generalized issues of dealing with Formlabs with that coupon code. So we'll see. We're going to dig into it a little bit. But I do want to give some shout-outs before we get rolling here. We got Steve Build's first comment because Steve and I share our stream links so that we can help each other out. So Steve was first and 14 months basic support. Thank you, sir. Jose Ferreria's here. Jeffrey, Max, Spurluck, Dio Mendez, Spectre V3I. Lean and Rain is here. Mad Cat, Zerno, Raw Smoke. Who else we got? David Connor Shover, Old Salty, Monkey Butler Labs, Sissy Kid, S. Dibble, sure, FJ Prince, Berlin, Nick T, Saxophone Guy, and Antonio Sanford, Stuart Fisher, and Joe Rust. I think I got people. Oh, Mike Never Let Machines Win RS Makes is also here. So thank you all. Like the stream, share it out and all that. We're going to be doing some filament giveaways throughout the stream, so, stay tuned for that. Of course, link is in that pinned comment if you do want a chance to win some printed solid filament. And I do think we're going to go to a, once a month you can only win. I think that's fair. I don't know. You guys tell me. I think it's fair. But anyways, DRM, right? We have seen a lot of DRM in this industry. And it's way more prevalent on machines like 10 grand and up. But when we look at the more affordable side, there are a couple that will stand out, right? DaVinci. DaVinci's probably the most famous for having crappy DRM. And in fact, it was cracked only a few months after it came out with nothing but an Arduino, which was super nice for anyone that had a DaVinci printer that was willing to go through the, elite hacking style to go ahead and get access to their machine, which I care not to get too into, but I firmly disagree with completely locking a machine into DRM for consumers. Unless you're doing something fundamentally different than everybody else, like you're providing special materials that nobody else can, and that unlocks something on the machine that they can't have access to otherwise, I firmly disagree with DRM on the consumer side. Because all DRM really is to me, it's a cash grab. Now, when we look at errant hair today, I am exhausted. We got back at 2 o'clock in the morning. From driving 4 hours back from Miami. We were down in Miami because it was my grandmother's 94th birthday and wanted to go and celebrate with her. So we went down from Friday night to Saturday, spent all Saturday and drove back late Saturday. Totally worth it. Yeah, it was great. I was very excited for that. But yeah, DRM is... it's a touchy subject, right? A lot of people in here are saying, screw DRM. I don't like DRM. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. You kind of do, and you don't know that you do. You kind of do, but you don't know that you do. Right? DRM in its most capitalistic form is you can't use anybody else's stuff other than ours. Right? People only, companies only want you to use their stuff. Well, one of the most popular 3D printer startup brands right now, Bamboo, is fully DRM. And in fact, there's enough evidence out there to state that at one point in time, Bamboo was considering going the way of DaVinci, where they were going to lock you down completely. Because what's the point of adding the RFID tags and the readers and then encrypting it so much that the average reader and the average user has a hard time of even not only deciphering what is on the tags, but being able to rewrite them onto their own tags? It's stupid. It's stupid. But Bamboo is DRM controlled. Right? When you put a Bamboo roll into the machine, it recognizes the roll, it unlocks the feature of showing you theoretically how much filament is left on the spool, and it also auto updates the color. Those are all things that do not exist with anybody else's material. Those are things that you have to functionally do yourself. It's DRM. It's DRM. You can love it or hate it, but Bamboo 3D printers are DRM, and theoretically, at any time, Bamboo can push an update that will hard lock their machines to allow you to only use their filament. And unless you've decided to, root your printer, more or less, there is nothing you can do to stop it. And quite frankly, with the way that the root is now being done, I'm not certain there's a way for you to stop it either way. So that's something to remember, is that at any point in time, companies that have installed DRM controls or DRM processes can I'm not saying they will, but they can lock you out. So if you sit here and say, I hate DRM, but you own a Bamboo, do you really hate DRM? Or do you hate the idea of DRM? Do you buy Bamboo spools because you like how easy it is? Well, then you don't hate DRM. Do you have a Formlabs printer and you don't run the open materials license because you know their materials just work, you don't have to fuss with it, everything works great? Yeah? Then you like DRM. Do you have a printer over $15,000? Well, then you're stuck with DRM. That's just the way things go. All of those issues with DRM that the consumer has, to me, evaporate when you look at the professional side of things. So we have quite a few machines that are fully DRM locked. You cannot, change it out. There are, of course, ways to bypass it, right? So like on the CJP full color sandstone printers that we have, or the one that we have, their cartridges are locked, and the lock is really stupid. It's a piece of plastic that there's a pin, and then there's 4 little tabs. Okay, if the tab that you want isn't out of the way, the pin doesn't work, and the cartridge doesn't go into the machine. That is it's not technically DRM, but it is locking you to that cartridge. Well, you can just refill the cartridge and reuse it, right? If you're making your own ink, you can refill it. And that is pretty consistent across most of the ink-based 3D printers. I'm looking at PolyJet, I'm looking at CJP, I'm looking at MJF is similar. But when you start looking at these higher-end machines, you don't want to risk damaging the machine with non-OEM stuff, right? It's like adding a turbocharger to a car. Do you want that extra horsepower? Of course you want that extra horsepower. It's fun. But are you willing to obliterate your warranty on your $250,000 car to just go ahead and make it a little bit faster? The average person is going to say no. Even further, if that warranty is costing you $10,000 to $30,000 to $40,000 a year, you're definitely not going to add that turbocharger, because that warranty is a requirement for the company to continue selling you things that you need to fix the vehicle. That is how it works in the industrial industry. A lot of these companies, ours included, require some level of traceability when it comes to our products. We shipped out some FRABS parts to a client. Those parts require full traceability. We need to prove where we got it from, the UL94, what printer we printed it on, the settings that we use. All of that has to be provided as a method of traceability should something ever go wrong, because we followed the steps that we know to follow that make the material safe. If something goes wrong, we start to look at the processes and say, all right, it was the same G code. So if one part is messed up and all the other parts are perfectly fine, it's something now with the material, because the printer is the same, the G code's the same. We look at the material. Well, that material has a batch number on it. That batch number, we can go to the manufacturer and say, hey, something ain't right here, Chief. Let's go ahead and verify everything before we move on. This is consistent. This is normal. This is what we expect with traceability and DRM. Now, that's filament. It's not DRM. That specific filament is not DRM. The machine that we use is not DRM. But DRM still has those particular problems, right? If you are in a machine that is locked down and you bypass the DRM somehow, and the company that is servicing your machine finds out, you're going to have an expensive afternoon, because they're likely going to refuse to service your machine. They're likely going to refuse to help you out at all, and could even potentially refuse to sell you parts. Because at the end of the day, especially on the high-end market, you don't own your printer. You're effectively leasing it, because when the company decides to end of life it, what are you left to do? You have to get something new. because you have no ability to maintain it yourself. This is deliberate. It's so that the company who's doing all the work can have a dedicated revenue stream beyond just the sale of the printer, and even further, beyond the sale of the consumables. Because there's no guarantee that you're going to buy a $250,000 printer and use it all the time. There should be, but there isn't. So the companies want a way to guarantee revenue from you. And as soon as you stop giving that revenue to them, they take their ball and they go home. And they're a little bit pissed off about it. David says, proprietariness is a general hallmark. My day job is full of it. Yeah, just like how in my area, my options for internet are Spectrum, DSL, some sort of reasonably unreliable 5G connection, or Starlink. If I want to have a terrestrial style internet connection here, there is no fiber, there are no other options, I have Spectrum. Spectrum has a monopoly here in the area, and that is their proprietariness that they're doing. We're slowly working on this problem. It might be a very expensive problem, but this is a problem nonetheless. The average user would say, I would hate for a company to lock down my machine. Well, there have been plenty of times where I've submitted support tickets to Bamboo, and they say, can you please rerun the print with Bamboo PLA? Well, I don't have any Bamboo PLA. Well, then buy some. No, I'm not going to buy my material. I'm not going to buy materials for you. If all my other machines are totally happy running a competitor filament, your machine should be too. And if your machine isn't happy running that competitor filament, that is a you problem, not a me problem. That is an engineering problem. It's the same way that the Bamboo AMS doesn't fit like at least 40% of the spools that we use here, right? Bamboo designed that AMS to be a specific size. They could have made it bigger. We've seen plenty of cases where that AMS could have been bigger and accepted bigger spools and still fit within the machine, right? What they did was an engineering decision, okay? And they did that to ensure that their materials worked, but potentially not everybody else's did. That's a big deal. And when you're looking at running a print farm, okay, and you, let's say, and I'm going to use Bamboo as the example because they're like the most prevalent company for the 3D printer industry with DRM. So this is not to hate on Bamboo. I think that their implementation of DRM currently is quite good. What Bamboo has done with DRM currently, to me, is exactly what I want DRM to be. It is DRM plus. You don't lose any functionality by not using our equipment or our consumables, but you lose just a little bit of that ease of use. And as long as you're okay with that, then everything should be okay. At least in my head. So Bamboo says, all right, we're going to build a machine. We're going to make it so our spools fit. And as long as your spool is close to our spool, it'll work. The entire industry was moving toward cardboard spools well before Bamboo hit the market. We had already started this transition. Bamboo knew this. They clearly did some level of research. Bamboo opted not to make their system easily compatible with cardboard, right? Their rollers can chew up the cardboard. That cardboard dust gets into the first stage AMS feeder, and that first stage AMS feeder then wears out faster. But that first stage AMS feeder is all made of plastic. There is no reason that the level of crappy plastic that they used on that first stage feeder is required. Right? That first stage feeder, and quite frankly, the entire like motor system within the AMS is woefully underbuilt. And I happen to believe it's by design. Now, I don't know if that's by design to save the machine in case there is an issue, but it just feels like there was cost cutting done in that AMS. But because it is all locked down, right? It's all proprietary. They control whether or not you can do things. It's like, if I wanted to copy Bamboo circuit boards, it's not easy, but it's not impossible. What I don't have is the ability to do firmware. Okay, Prusa has done something similar with the X Buddy boards, which Prusa actually just did their 100,000th board in-house. Now, you might say 100,000 boards, that's not a lot of boards. And okay, that's fair. It's not. 100,000 boards in-house. 100,000 X Buddy boards, like the actual motherboards, in-house. So we took a tour of Prusa. There will be a video coming out on it. I'm hoping within the next month and a half. It is taking a long time to get these videos through editing. I'm not going to get into that today. But they have a full SMT assembly line, right? That is a big deal for a company because what Prusa said is we're not going to rely on other companies for quality control. But part of that move, did they have it for the Mini when they first implemented this? I don't know. After the Rambo board in the Mark III, Prusa said, we're not going to make this easy on you anymore to install custom firmware. If you want to install custom firmware, you must physically cut a piece on the motherboard, and that allows it to accept a non-Prusa signed firmware, which is kind of cool that is like just with one little trace is possible. But you could argue that that is a form of physically destructive DRM, right? The company says you will stay on our firmware, okay? If you don't want to, you're going to physically void your warranty in a way that only we can actually verify. The problem is people were putting, non-signed or just, off-the-shelf firmware that they found in the Mark IIIs, and it was wreaking havoc on these machines. Spruce said, no, we're done here. We're absolutely done here. And I don't blame them. Right, so I don't exactly blame Bamboo for what they did. I am worried that at any point in time, Bamboo can lock down their machine and say you could only use our materials, right? Because why does a why does a printer manufacturer also need to manufacture filament? And why would all of those things have RFID chips and readers and be heavily encrypted so the average user cannot write their own? Because, how nice would it be if you could just take, I don't know, a roll of printed solid filament? The people that are sponsoring this giveaway that we have, link in the pinned comment, and wanted to put it into your Bamboo. But you didn't want to go through and change the fact that it's a Jessie PLA and, this, that, and the other thing. If I wanted to make my own RFIDs and just use a flipper to program those RFIDs, it's not even difficult. It's super simple to do with one of these little tools. And those tools are less than $200. In fact, most cell phones can often do it, but your phone may vary. I will sit here and say that that should be possible. But Bamboo says no. And the only way you get that feature is if we give it to you. Now, you might say that people prefer DRM, they just don't realize it. Okay? Adobe is a great process of showing you what DRM looks like. A lot of us don't like Adobe, okay? We're a little pissed off about how much money they charge because they went from a you own it model to now a you lease it model, okay? We as 3D Musketeers have moved away from Adobe products because I'm tired of paying so much damn money. We went to DaVinci Resolve for our video editing, much against the desire of the video editors, but I'm already paying people enough money around here. I don't want to keep paying Adobe money. Or all you ZBrush artists, when Maxon bought ZBrush from Pixelogic, okay? They went from a buy once, cry once method to, no, buy monthly, cry constantly method. There was a lot of people that were pissed off at that, and people that were not ever going to update their ZBrush because they don't want to pay the monthly cost. I see that monthly costs end up pushing people into the level of piracy, right? Where they're going sailing, if you will, a little R, if you will. And yep, we see spikes every time that Netflix raises their prices in people that are pirating movies and things like that. It's obvious, but at the end of the day, these companies are just trying to make more money. And let's be real, Bamboo is probably not making a lot of money on the printers. They're making their money on the filament. And I believe that's where industrial 3D printing does it as well. Zach Smith is in here saying, chatting with Williams F1 ADM this week. They prefer chip cartridges as it allows for better traceability if any defects occur. They use FDM parts as carbon fiber part negatives. Exactly. I guess technical term for that would probably be called a buck. That is B-U-C-K, not the other one. And yeah, we talked about that a little bit earlier, how traceability is such a big deal. David is saying that Sonos Audio ruined their customer base when they blocked all their old audio equipment one day. Yeah, isn't that a bit of a pain in the ass? Doesn't that suck when something that you own all of a sudden doesn't work anymore? And what is that for? It's not because supporting it is difficult. It's not difficult at all to support it. It's easy. They're choosing not to support it to try to get you to buy more of their products. I am a big Google fanboy, specifically like the Android side of things, but the Chromecast ecosystem is something that I quite like. I really like the Chromecast ecosystem. I really like the Chromecast Audio, a one-time product that Google released that sold beautifully. Absolutely beautifully. People bought them up. It was a Chromecast, but all it did was audio. And it had both analog and digital outs. So if you wanted to run an analog system, you could run an analog system. If you wanted to run a digital system and have your own DAC in the way, digital to analog converter, you could. It was easy. It was simple, and it was cheap. And because it worked inside of the Google ecosystem, you could send it audio from a video that you were watching. You could send it music from any of your music systems out there. You could use it on a media server. You could use it on Spotify. You could use it on Pandora, whatever the hell you wanted to. It just freaking worked. Google decided to just stop producing it, and the value of them has risen significantly. I've finally been able to buy a few recently at decent prices, but I am always worried that they're going to stop working one day. As it is, they are very difficult to add to a network or into a Chromecast audio group because they're not entirely supported anymore. They're not unsupported, but they're not currently doing a lot of updates to them. And yet, people ask for Google to bring back the Chromecast, and Google doesn't listen. The same way that users ask Bamboo to release their encryption software or their encryption keys or whatever to be able to make their own RFID chips so that you could just put in your filament and it just works. They won't do it. Why? Money. It's always about money. Raw Smoke says, that's it. Everyone is actually trying to control what the user can do and can't do with their hardware. Prusa is the perfect example how the RepRap project turns into an undercover DRM company. No, they're not. They added... Oh my god. Okay, so Prusa's DRM is a little line on a board, okay? That little line, if you cut it, allows you to install your own custom firmware. Otherwise, you're stuck using Prusa's custom firmware, or Prusa's own firmware. Prusa lets you do it. You just lose your warranty if you do it, as you should. If you're going to reprogram something that is beyond the company's, normal standard, yes, you should lose your warranty. The company shouldn't have to support something that you screwed up because you didn't know what you were doing. I don't understand why anyone would want to flash different firmware onto those machines. Heck, I don't really know why half the time people update their machines. See, I am the kind of person that doesn't like updating until it makes a lot of sense. It's why the CrowdStrike vulnerability would never hit my company, certainly not my printers. Those Mark IIIs behind you are still running 3.8 for their firmware. Why? Because it works. There's nothing wrong with it, and there's not been recent updates. I say, I want those extra features. I don't care. And quite frankly, updating a bunch of machines takes a lot of time, and I don't want to do it, right? Because you have to use USB to do it, and I don't like that. Of course, the newer machines, the Mark IV, the Mini, and the XL, can all update via their USB flash drive, but not those. Not the Mark IIIs. They don't allow it. Prusa is still the perfect example of RepRap. They release their boards. You can go copy a Prusa board. I'm looking at you, Fies Tech. You do it all the damn time. I'll call you out for being a clone company, right? Because it's what you are. Don't lie about it. But the only reason Fies Tech can do that, at least easily, is because Prusa releases everything and effectively enables that kind of behavior. Bamboo, on the other hand, doesn't. And that's why you don't see perfect clones of the Bamboo printer. You see machines like the FlashForge AD5M, which I think is a great printer for the money. $300 or less for a 220 cube Core XY monster of a machine. It's great value. My brother has one, absolutely loves the crap out of it, and he uses it every day at his job. Awesome. Love to see it. And a lot of our fans have them and love them because do you want to spend $600 on a Bamboo or do you want to spend $300 on an AD5M? If you want Core XY and you're on a budget, AD5M is a great value. Now, even FlashForge and a lot of these companies that are coming out have their own versions of Clipper. Is that DRM? That one I think is kind of for you to decide, right? It is some level of control, but it's not technically keeping you from doing it yourself. But at the same time, if you flash unapproved firmware and you have issues, you can't expect the company to help you. Is that DRM? I don't know. Is it companies just being lazy and wanting to have their name on everything? Yes, that is absolutely what it is. Is it DRM? Kind of. Is it deliberate DRM? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. S. Dibble says, without an open RFID standard for filament, you can't really blame Bamboo for protecting their... Can you really blame Bamboo for protecting their IP to do that? I would guess they are protecting against other material manufacturers, not end users. But, like, what's the downside? What's the downside to the end user that if every filament manufacturer could just be integrated into that ecosystem, right? Well, what's the downside to the end user? Nothing. There is no downside to the end user. It's a benefit to the end user. The downside is to Bamboo. They would sell less filament. Why would you spend more money on a made-in-China filament when you could buy filament from the filament sponsor of this channel, Printed Solid, where it's made in America, and it's $19.99 a kilo. It's less, $20 a kilo. Round up, I'll give you the extra penny, right? $20 a kilo. For made in America, you're paying more than that for made in China. Now, this isn't xenophobic. It's real. And it's made in China. We know where it's made. Okay? So why would Bamboo lock people out? It's because they want to sell more filament, right? They want that feature to only be for them. And again, if they wanted to, they could completely lock you from using any other things other than theirs. BMW is the perfect example of this, right? With their car, where they went from, you own it, but now actually you're going to rent these features from us. $100 a month for heated seats or whatever the hell they're charging for this stuff. It's ridiculous, right? The CNC world is even crazier, right? We're looking at buying some Haas CNC machines for a client. They're having us basically build them a facility. Long story. Haas has a section of options that can be installed later, and it's the same price later on. If you get them now, you might be able to negotiate, some money off of all of it. But if you wanted to add it in later, it's not that big of a deal, right? It's just software. Same thing with Stratasys. It's just software, right? The Fortis 250, 450, 700, and 900 are all software locked. Look at the Fortis 700, the Fortis 700, the 770, the Fortis 700 line. It's the size of a 900, or very close to it. It's very close to the size of a 900, and it's like a third of the price. Why? Because it's locked to ABS, ASA, and I think nylon. It can't use any of the higher tech materials like PEEK, PEC, and Ultem. You have to spend more money for a bigger machine with those DRM locks that you must pay to unlock if you want that value. Now, the average user of a Stratasys machine doesn't care. They're going to buy the chipped filament from Stratasys, where it's sold by the cubic centimeter, because that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Why wouldn't it make sense? It doesn't make sense. Because no one else uses it that way. Just Stratasys. But when you buy it like that, you're buying it with a chip. The Stratasys chip, a lot of them have been cracked for years. Years! Right? Not many users, at least on the professional level, actually use cracked filament. There are companies like 3DX Tech, which is interesting because 3DX Tech was bought by a much bigger company, but 3DX Tech makes refills for Stratasys. They're chipped, right? They're in the canisters. They're full refills, the way that you would expect them to be, okay? Those systems are still expensive, but they're way more affordable than buying it from Stratasys. The problem is, if you have a maintenance tech come out, look at your machine, they're like, that's not approved materials. We're canceling your service contract. We are not refunding you extra money. You must get your machine recertified if you would like to go back under maintenance. Well, unless you're willing and somehow able to buy parts directly from Stratasys, which is often not possible, you are stuck keeping your machine in a maintenance contract, or you're stuck somehow trying to buy parts on the gray market, which has its own issues with, validity of parts, brand new versus used versus refurbished, yada yada. And when you're doing things that require that traceability and those certifications, you shut up and pay. Because you're charging enough anyways that DRM doesn't actually matter. At the end of the day, when you're looking at businesses often prefer DRM. Not because they want to, but because they have to. It's that little bit of extra insurance that makes life a little bit more comfortable. Because if we follow the exact ways to do it, we won't have problems. Now, my feeling, I've been in a situation where because we didn't have a DRM controlled machine, we lost a very, very big job. It's about a $10,000 job. And for a small business, it was a $10,000 job for like less than 1.5 kilos worth of printing. But this job came with specific requirements on the machine. It required a Fortis 450 MC with specific unlocks, with specific materials loaded into it, even though those weren't the materials that you were going to print with, because this is how that material was certified for what it was going to do. I had the material in-house that met all the specifications of the client, except we didn't have the Fortis printer. I said, I can print this on any of our Prussias. They are open source, made in the Czech Republic, fully air-gapped, safe, and simple. The client could not tell me yes, even though they wanted to, because they were bound by the terms of the DRM. They were bound by the terms of the contract, which required this DRM. We could provide full traceability, but what they actually needed was to provide me with the raw G code. And then we just run their code. It would have made a ton of money. But I'm not going to spend, what, $140,000+ for a $10,000 job. It ain't worth it. But DRM, that's what businesses want. Because that traceability, repeatability, and reliability matter a bunch. Old Salty says, some electric motorcycles are doing this as well. You pay monthly to activate things that are already installed. Well, I think a lot of manufacturers, especially for car manufacturers, Tesla specifically, are seeing that it is just easier to install all the options and then just lock them behind a paywall, okay? You want heated seats? Well, your car's already got it. You can activate it when you buy the car. You can activate it later. If you activate it when you buy the car, I think they charge you a little bit less because you're buying it all in a lump sum versus later. Do I agree with that? I don't know. I can understand from an economies of scale perspective, if they're already building the seats with the heaters in it, it's easier to just control it from a software side than it is from a hardware side. But at the same time, I don't want my car to have the ability to just simply deactivate things on a whim via a software push. Think about that one for just a second. If Tesla can control your seat heaters, what all can they control? And now this isn't a tinfoil hat thing, right? You can control a lot about a Tesla from a phone. That means it is connecting somehow to the device. That is going to be either Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, cellular, or some other RF, LoRa, whatever type of protocol you want to use. I don't particularly care. These protocols, if obtained by a malicious activist or a malicious user, or maybe Tesla decides to sell, so, you know, a definitely stable individual is no longer running it, and a definitely more stable individual is said to run it. What if they just decide that, you know, those old Gen 1 Model S's, yeah, they're not going to work anymore. You have 30 days to get rid of your car before we break it. Could you do anything about that? No, there isn't. Because no one's bothered to break the DRM. Eventually, people get pissed off enough they break the DRM. Because why not? It gets to be fun. And they want to bring power back to the users. Look at all the farmers having to hack their tractors to actually be able to work on their damn tractors. John Deere, y'all are disgrace to farmers. They only like you because of your brand. The fact that you're forcing farmers to learn how to hack so they can fix their own tractors is absolute garbage. Speaking of garbage, 35 likes. Bring those likes up. That's not technically garbage, but hey, like the stream if you haven't. Spectre V3I is asking, off topic, I think you should do a making awesome on free and pay to slice slicers. We could. But what... Okay, so I know of two, right? I know of Lychee, but Lychee also has a free options. I'm not entirely certain if... Lychees might be the good example of DRM. We'll talk about them in a second. But the big one that people think of when they think of paid slicers is Simplify 3D. Oh, apparently Kiss Slicer is another one too. I didn't know that. I didn't even know that. So, there you go. I learned something too. And as Spurlock says, Simplify hasn't been relevant in years. Yeah, kind of agree. I loved their software for years, right? And definitely everybody has a legal copy of the older versions of Simplify 3D. Nobody would ever have one that's licensed to God. Still funny that was how they licensed the cracked one. Always loved it. It was very funny when we would get G-code in from people to look at, and you could see that it was sliced with Simplify 3D licensed to God. I'm like, you didn't pay for that. I believe that Simplify 3D had a huge value back in the day. The ability to paint on support material, chef's kiss beautiful. Now that's available in every freaking free slicer at this point. And if your free slicer doesn't have that, it's time to get a new free slicer. Your free slicer is crap. It needs to have it. I think that on the software side, and if you guys want a DRM talk about the software, free versus paid slicers, I'm happy to do it. I think it's going to come down to if the paid slicers aren't updated on at least the same basic frequency as the free ones and aren't staying ahead of the free ones in terms of like quality of service, quality of life, usability, features, and all of that, then why the heck would you use a free one? Or why the heck would you use a paid one when a free one is just better? S. Dibbles says, I think Simplify released their new version at the end of 22. I think that was right. I think there was a quick media flash about it, and then most of the creators I follow quickly returned to open slicers, or to the other open slicers. I used Simplify 3D up until Prusa Slicer 2.5. It was when it was still like Slick 3R Prusa edition, right? I used it then. But we used it because we were doing a lot of thin parts. And back then, Prusa Slicer's integration of supporting on really, really thin objects was bad. It's obviously gotten considerably better and is no longer an issue. But we used Simplify 3D for like 2 clients still at the time, not anymore. Because the support was just that much better. Like the physical like removal of support, the painting of support, it was just better. It was just better. Rose Kindred said Lychee has free as well. Just added features for Pro, such as editing supports from others. I think there's hollowing in Pro, things like that. Chi2, they tried locking boards on Elegoo to force Chi2 only. Yes, we talked about that a long time ago, the Liberating Mars project, where people cracked it. They were cool people to talk to. They never did want to come on to a podcast, which I'm still kind of bummed about. I would love to talk to people. Like, I want to talk to people like Jack Reciter and like, if you want to have DRM talk, you bring on like Dark Knight Diaries Jack Reciter to talk about it. Cause like he could have a huge chat about that kind of thing. He's a really, I love his podcast. If you're looking for another podcast and you like tech stuff, Dark Knight Diaries, phenomenal podcast. Highly recommended. Altani says, I didn't know anything about 3D printing at the time and figured that if you paid for it, it was going to be best. Yeah. Right? Isn't that part of the psyche of DRM, right? You pay for it, therefore it's better, right? Well, I'm trying to think of a car. Okay. Does BMW, right, sell an expensive car? That depends. Does Rolls-Royce sell an expensive car built on a 7 Series chassis? Yes, they do. But do you get I've never ridden a Rolls Royce, so I can't comment on it, but do you get theoretically unparalleled comfort, unparalleled quiet, you know, a beautiful ride suspension? You can get the Starlight roof and all that. Do you pay extra for the Rolls Royce tax? You do. Do you pay extra for Prusa tax? You do. Do you pay extra for bamboo tax? Yeah, you do. Bamboo is not a cheap printer. They're expensive, but they provide a lot of value. Is Prusa expensive and they provide a lot of value? I believe so. Is Printed Solid expensive and provide a lot of value? No and yes. They're not expensive and they provide a lot of value. And if you click the pinned comment on the stream, well, not the pinned comment, the pinned chat message, you can enter to win a spool of Printed Solid Filament. And at the top of the hour, we'll give away a spool, because why not? Let's have a little bit of fun. Simplify was my first, like, big boy slicer, you could say. But prior to that, we were running, like, Repetier Host. Have any of you tried Repetier Host before? I'm sorry if you have. It's tough. It's old school. Now, old school is good school, right? I'm a firm believer of old school is good school, right? Love my old music, love everything like that. It's beautiful, it's wonderful, it's great. But software, new school is generally good school. But where do we draw the line? As a business, I often am totally happy to go ahead and pay extra to effectively guarantee that the machine just works. Formlabs. I'm going to get it since I have it handy. I don't know if it's leaked. Let's see if it's leaked. Let's find out. What do you guys think? Has this cartridge leaked? No, it hasn't. It has a little bit. This is a Formlabs resin cartridge. This is castable resin from Formlabs, back when I had a form printer. Also, it's some of the best casting resin out there, so you just break the seal and dump it into your resin printer. Yeah, this is fully DRM controlled. But see, I don't know if you notice, but there's a cap right here. You see that cap? Think about it. That's all I'm saying. Think about it. That's all I'm saying. And yes, this bag is still sealed. I have yet to open this. We don't do enough. I bought it. Go back there. I bought it when they had a sale. I said, cool. Let me get some in. We had a couple of really, really big casting clients at the time. We have since... Well, they have since moved away. I moved away from one of them. Two of them moved away from 3D printing casting resin. They went back to the old school way. It was just more controllable process for them, and I don't blame them. So I've had that resin for a bit. It's probably bad. I would assume it's gone bad by now. I don't know. We'll have to try. But yeah. I don't mind the DRM. From a business perspective, I don't. Now, I don't want DRM on like a Prusa or a Bamboo or something like that. I don't want that. But I don't mind that if I pay for the DRM, right? Let's say I buy the Bamboo filament. I don't mind that DRM gives me a little bit of extra features, right? That usability, it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice. Oh no, Rose Kindred said I entered the raffle, don't know why. My Neptune got water damage, and the Hada decided to try to go through the build plate. Hasn't worked yet. Real sorry to hear about that, Neptune. Yeah, printers don't like water. Don't do that. I'm sorry that happened. That is never fun. That's never fun. Kali asks when I'm getting my hair cut. Brother, I need time to do that. I am so busy these days, right? Being out of town for 2 days put me behind a little bit. It was totally worth it. I was down in Miami for my grandmother's 94th birthday, and it was awesome. I am at least a few pounds heavier than I was when I left. Her food is amazing. And everybody's food is amazing. I swear, that family will use any excuse to get like 30-something people in a room to celebrate and cook like... Every person could have had multiple pounds of food and there still would have been leftovers. But yeah, I do want to get my hair cut. I kind of want to like bring hairstyles to our Discord and see what they say. But I also know that our Discord is full of degenerates in a good way, right? They're loving degenerates that will likely choose the weirdest one just to mess with me. So, I don't know. What did my mom say about my hairstyle? My mom was not there. My mom was in Atlanta. My dad was at work and John was busy. So it was just myself and Amber. We took our friends Jazz and Joe down there. So I was the only one representing the Posner family down there. I guess Amber was with me, but yeah. Macca says, who us? Yeah. Okay, Rose said, kitchen flooded, water went down, the light bulb and socket with it on no less flooded my stuff. Ugh, I'm sorry. Username with no spaces said, have you done a video on the Prusa MMU3? I haven't. We have one. We will be building it on stream. Maybe in a couple of weeks. So yeah. We'll see. Live from New York or live from New York 3D said started planning for Printopia yet. Yes. Printopia is happening. Flights are booked, hotels booked, still need to book a car. But yeah, we're gonna be doing that. Duff says fire up the Flowbee. Ooh, that's a reference not a lot of people in the chat are gonna get. That's gonna be a fun one. Yeah, there's part of me that wants to like do like, you know, Twitch cuts my hair kind of thing, right? Where with like donations or something, people are able to, you know, say like what to do in a quadrant, but you all are terrible. Chad Kreider says, go ball, talk about low maintenance. Dude, I don't have a pretty head, okay? All right. Look at how much forehead is here, okay? Y'all don't want that. Y'all don't want that. And yes, you could print a Flowbee. For those who don't know what a Flowbee is, it's a vacuum that goes on some clippers that when you're cutting the hair, just sucks the hair back through. It's actually quite good. Just Push Prince said, do a reverse mohawk. You all had all this opportunity to mess with my hair, and you chose not to. When we shaved my head at the Sanjay Mortimer Rep Festival for benefiting the Sanjay Mortimer Foundation in December at Oxford last year. Y'all had that opportunity. You all went easy on me. That's not my fault. I was expecting to get like reverse mohawks and weird zebra stripes, and I was expecting some crazy stuff. Y'all went easy on me. It was funny. Spurluck says, have Gloop's robot arm use a Flowbee on you. No, I would like, that would be a cool collab with like stuff made here, but I don't think he even knows that we exist. That would be cool though, because he's I think, didn't he do a hair cutting robot? But he used scissors. Pretty certain he used scissors. Yeah. Life of Street says, how's the XL doing? Looking at anyone with 5 heads. Looks like they've been hit or miss issues with it so far. If you assemble it correctly and make sure all the screws are quite tight, you'll have a great experience with the tool head docking and undocking procedure. I don't think the cooling is enough, and that's why we've scanned the entirety of the Prusa XL toolhead to a 22 micron accuracy, and we'll be redesigning a fully CFD optimized flow for the air duct, and potentially just re-engineering the entire air system on a Prusa XL. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, I don't think that the cooling on the XL is adequate personally. If you run it slower, it's fine, but like, I don't want to run it slower. I want to run it faster. So, yeah. Anyways. Spectre V3i said, also recently my Prusa would not restart the print during a power failure. So I went to using the SD card, but that still didn't restart the print even when I turned on the crash detection. Power loss detection is a complicated thing. It doesn't always work. I don't rely on it. I have big battery backups that run this entire room except like the main overhead lights and my 2D printer. Everything else in here is on batteries. We can run for hours without power. I live in Florida. It is hurricane season. We don't mess around. In fact, my computer, my backup here, has 2 on it. When I was changing out the batteries for my APC 1500, we use an old one with a fan on it. For this system, I used a EcoFlow Delta 2 in the way so that if we did lose power, the Delta 2 would still provide supplementary power to the computers while I was changing out the batteries. I never did take the Delta 2 out, so we actually have a double battery backup here. Salty Scorpion says it's a good thing that Prusa is open source. We did not get that from Prusa. Prusa has released most of the CAD files that we need, but not in situ. The issue is everything in situ. So I took one of my tool heads off my machine and we scanned it. So, yeah. WT Cook said, who installed the UPSs? I did. This guy did. I did that. Don't do what I do with UPSs. Get a big UPS. In fact, if you have solar, get like a power wall or something so that you're capturing energy and you can reuse that energy. If you have an electric car, find ways that electric car can become a battery backup for things. It is crazy convenient. I have a 22-year-old Honda. It doesn't do that. It does not do that. Rose Kindred said, mess up the haircut, get hair in a can. I miss those commercials. Yeah, Ron Popeil. Miss that guy. All right, it's past the top of the hour, so let's 49 responses. We're going to give away just a spool today. Or just a spool right now. We'll give away a spool toward the end. But let me sort A to Z. Let me grab the names here for today. Oh, God, I grabbed them all. Grabbing the names. Today is the 21st. Yeah, 21st. Okay. We'll give away a spool right now. Oh, whoops. I clearly didn't copy things. We're gonna copy that. I hate sucking at this. Shuffle a few times. Click the wheel of doom. Who's gonna win it this week? Let's find out. Got a lot of names this week. All right, we have Jeffrey Strahan. Are you in the chat? Jeffrey Strahan. Jeffrey Strahan. I swear, if I have to draw like 4 freaking names to make this work, Jeffrey Strahan. He's taggable. Taggable doesn't mean here. He's gotta put a message in the chat. WT Cook says I can be Jeffrey. Nope, it's gotta be Jeffrey Strahan. Y'all tag him a few times in the chat. Let's see if we can get him to reply. He'll get a little bit of time, but eventually I gotta call a new one. Might be lagging behind. No tag. He's there. I can literally tag him. So it's taggable. I don't know. Do we allow if they can be tagged, or do they? I think they have to reply, because like if they don't reply, then they're not actually here. Does that make sense? Is that mean of me? What do you think? Do we give it to Jeffrey even though he's not replying? Because no, we can't do that. We can't, because if he's not here, if Jeffrey's not here, and he's not, yeah, I'm doing a new poll. So I'm not gonna remove his name. His name will stay in for next time, but we're gonna do a new one. It's Zerno. Zerno, have you won recently? When was the last time you won? Zerno, when was the last time? You better be here. You son of a gun. You better be here. Freaking Zerno better be here. Force replies, our 3D Musketeers is DRM. No, it's 2 weeks ago. Though no sign of an email. Zerno, did you reach out to me via DM or Twitter like I tell people to? Zerno won 2 weeks ago. Zerno, you're supposed to DM me, and then I send it to you. That's how it works. If I need to reach out to people via email, we can. But I need your email because I need to know where to send everything. It's not a coupon code. I have to do everything manually. It's weird. Okay, so Zerno, you won 2 weeks ago. So DM me, Zerno, please. Okay, see, he just DM'd me. Again, rules are rules. Yep. All right. So Zerno's already won. So let's spin again. And we got live from New York. I swear if you're not in New York, I'm going to be upset by this. You sent a DM right before the stream. Well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. I was streaming. All right, live from New York. All right, there. Finally, someone. It takes so many times. All right, your name is being removed for the next draw. All right, so you win. You win a spool of filament. Congratulations. And you are actually on the later end of actually replying for all that. So that is super cool. So either email, you could email me, although I prefer a Discord DM or Twitter DM. So, yeah. We will still do a couple more. Maybe we'll do another spool toward the end. So stay tuned for that. So, all right. Thoughts on unlocking with DRM? Oh, John Olson says, have I received this month's Printed Solid subscription yet? No, I haven't. So I don't know what's in it. I saw that it was sent out, but I did get 2 emails that it was sent out, and I don't know why. So we'll see. Maybe it was a duplicate email for some reason. Mama always told me I was a winner. That's right. You're a winner in our book. And yes, they do. They have a monthly subscription box. It's like $37. They don't always have it available, so you have to kind of get in when they have it available, and you get generally a custom color every month plus 1 regular spool. So Old Saudi says Printed Solid still send them mixtape spools each month. Yes, that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. So, all right. Thank you. Live from New York. So, yeah. I don't know really where I stand on functionally DRM. Because, like, part of me likes the way that Formlabs does it. I kind of like the way that Formlabs does it. But I don't like that the open materials license is so expensive. It's like $2,000 to $3,000. Oh, there's Jeffrey Strahan. Hey, Jeffrey, you're like 10 minutes behind, I think. You're at least 10 minutes behind. Can someone tag him and I'll tag him and tell him he's behind. Nothing I can do about it. If you're not here when we call it in present time, there's nothing I can do. I'm sorry. That's the life. That's the life of the giveaways, man. If you're not here in the present time, it is what it is. I can't control that. Anyways, when we set to look at how companies do it, I get upset about how a lot handle these open materials licensing, right? Forum Labs charges you like $2,000 for an open materials license. So that's just so you can use somebody else's material. So what they're saying is, instead of paying us a little bit every single time you buy some of our material, you're going to pay us a lot of bit so you don't have to buy our material anymore. I don't know if I agree with it. Now, there is value into using a closed ecosystem, right? We talked about that traceability before, but it's also to get reasonably guaranteed results. DRM has a place in the like light commercial to full-on industrial market. Consumers get pissed off at it because they don't want to pay more money. Businesses don't care because they want that reliability. They want that guarantee that DRM normally provides you. And that's really valuable because knowing that I'm going to buy 2 spools of ABS from Stratasys and those spools are going to be the same is really important. If I don't have that, then I can't really succeed here, right? Justin is here. Hey, I didn't know you even watch this stuff anymore. But I guess DRM is something that you've been thoroughly ingrained in recently. He said, here's my take. DRM for specific materials that are dialed into a machine with specific parameters to that machine are awesome. But having open materials alongside of that is great. Being able to have your own materials for engineering and prototyping is also very good for consumer side and paying and for playing with new and novel materials. I agree. I totally agree. I think that when you're on the consumer side of it and you don't see the professional, industrial, whatever, you look at it and say, well, this isn't exactly what I want. This isn't exactly... I don't care to print with certified materials. I'm just a guy making, flexible dragons and stuff for fun. But when you're making parts that involve liability, having that extra control, it makes everything so much better. It makes everything so much better. And the value there is you don't have to worry anymore because there are processes, protocols, and procedures that are followed because of that material. Justin says, I just popped in since I saw the title. Yeah, it makes sense. Kenneth says, it's also the cost to business. It gets added to the price and charged to the customer. Yeah. Yes. Sploak says, does that DRM provide real liability or warranty? No, it doesn't. But you can start saying, here's what we did. Here's the material that we used. These are the processes that we followed. And we look at saying, all right, here's our ISO 9001 guidelines for how we do it. This is the guideline that we followed. This is, the filament that we use. This is its batch number. This is who we bought it from. This is what we pay. This is what we made. You as a business start to remove liability. Every step that you have traceability for, your liability is reduced considerably, right? And as Justin says, yes and no, look at the GE engines that had metal printing. The root cause was a powder manufacturing issue. But if there wasn't traceability attached to that, GE would have been completely on the hook. Since they were able to find a manufacturing issue with the powder, GE can say, it's not us. We just did the way we were supposed to do things. The manufacturer screwed up. It's their fault, not ours. And you can start pushing liability to other people. And yes, while metal printing is non-existent for the consumer, It's why I say that, for me at least, DRM, I like it on the expensive part of our business. On the filament side of our business, I don't like it. And in fact, I always kind of raise an eyebrow when I see any DRM controlled materials, because it worries me quite a bit. Logo says Pantheon voids the warranty of the printhead if you use third-party filament, but I don't think they have a technical limitation. I don't see a problem in that. Pantheon is a $13,000 3D printer. Okay? Their machine is so expensive. It is so expensive. It doesn't matter. If you're buying a $13,000 printer and you want to print with Printed Solid PLA, then why are you buying the $13,000 printer? Go buy the $13,000 printer to print the controlled material for controlled projects to make parts that come off of $13,000 printer. I get why Pantheon does it. They don't want to support you doing something stupid. I get why Prusa did what they did. They don't want to support you doing something stupid. I totally understand this. Do I have to fully agree with it? No. But I get why they do it. There's an importance factor involved in this. I get that, as Salty Scorpion says, DRM removes consumer choice. But at the end of the day, if you're doing it for business, if removing choice also removes liability, if I can reduce my liability by paying more money for my materials and my machines, and my parts are just more expensive, I don't care. As a consumer, I care a lot. Because as a consumer, what is my biggest challenge to market? It's price. I'm not going to go spend $13,000 on a Pantheon, as much as I love the Pantheon, as a home gamer. It doesn't make sense. Grant, as 3D Musketeers, the business owner, has been eyeing a Pantheon for a long time. They're amazing machines. They're absolutely amazing machines. But I wouldn't print anything on it that isn't certified. There's no reason not to. You're spending that much money on a machine. You're not printing Flexi Dragons. You're just not. Because when you are doing that kind of stuff, you are so price dependent and price variant. The price is your biggest, deciding factor, that it no longer becomes even within your budget to afford a $13,000 printer that can do the same stuff a Bamboo X1 Carbon can do. It's just math. Username with no spaces says that they're an aircraft mechanic and those 3D printed Neo fuel nozzles are a nightmare. Yeah, I never said that powder printing was good for everything. I think additive is currently being gobbled up by big business as and kind of like how AI, right, is being used, where everything is AI this and AI that and AI this. It's not AI. It's not artificial intelligence. And if you think it is, you're stupid. It's not. It's not artificial intelligence. These are trained models that are responding based on given input with the input that they already have. They're making guesses. They're making often wrong guesses. AI is a buzzword. It's BS. It's just basically some cobbled version of ChatGPT. Consumers don't have access to real artificial intelligence. And if for some reason you think that you do, I'm sorry, you've been misled. But when people will just buy a new CPU because it's AI powered, nobody cares. The people that actually understand this stuff, yeah, we see right through it. We see right through the BS. Camille says, I've got a great idea. Why don't these 3D Musketeers develop open source Bamboo Lab clone? Because I don't want to. Right? The problem with open source is that there's not a lot of money in it. At the end of the day, if you want us to develop a printer, then pay me for it. If you want us to develop an open source Bamboo Lab clone, pay me for it. Pay me up front for it. Myself and our team understand the value of our time. And for us to put a bunch of time, effort, and energy into developing a product right now, it is outside of our wheelhouse, right? Hesperlock has open source Bamboo. You mean a Voron. Like, totally. Right? And with this new ERCF, or I saw Armored Turtle in here earlier, the Armored Turtle 8-track, you can get a lot of value out of a Voron right now. Yes, it's a pain in the ass to build. Yes, you have to know how to do programming, but that's the other side of it. You buy closed source because you like the fact that it just works. You play an open source because you like to tinker, you like to have fun. Closed source is for those who just want things to work, and they're okay with paying the closed source premium. If you don't want to pay the closed source premium, then you spend the time on open source. That's how it goes. Live from New York said, did you try the Prusa MMU buffer? I've not had great success printing out the Pika now. I have not built my MMU 3 yet. We will absolutely be doing it live, so don't worry, you'll see it. Justin said, interesting, would love to learn more about that. I do a lot of metal AM, so it would be interesting to see the end user problems. A lot of engineers don't communicate with end users. Yeah, they don't. A lot of just businesses don't communicate in general throughout their chain of business. They just don't do it. I don't know why. They just don't do it. And from a business, like a small business standpoint where I'm trying to help your business, if you don't communicate with me, I can't help you. So, communicate, please. Yeah, it just works. Todd Howard wants their royalty check. Even open source can be profitable. You can sell hardware, support, etc. Yes, it can be. But look at what E3D did. E3D went from a fully open source to a quasi-open source, where some parts are open source, but the bulk of it is hidden behind patents and closed source. Why? Because these clone manufacturers were coming in, making inferior products, selling it as real products, and the average buyer didn't know the difference, and they were buying based on price. They were getting crappy Chinese clones. They were getting pissed at E3D because somehow that's now E3D's fault, and E3D went through a lot of BS to try to deal with it. So instead of going through everything and, trying to keep that method, they said, screw it, we're going to patent it. E3D did to me what is like the most altruistic version of patenting that we could have, where if you want it for like research and all of that, you can get a license, and I believe they do it, if not for free, very close to free. But it's not free. And it's not open source. They are keeping the spirit of open source while making sure they can maintain their intellectual property and cover the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars that they have in research and development into building these products. It is why open source is so complicated, because as soon as you publish those documentation, everybody can copy you. And in a world where the consumer is so price dependent, it makes it so that if you're not already playing the economies of scale deal, by the time you release your open source documentation, you better have a hell of a following or you are bound to fail. Prusa is big enough where they can maintain being open source. But if you notice, Prusa has started to lag in releasing all of their open source documentation. And a lot of people don't give Prusa the same crap that they do for other companies. I don't know why. I've asked about it, and I've been told we are working on it. It's not finalized, so we can't release it. Okay, but if you never finalize it and you never release it, it's still open source. I'm not saying that Prusa's going to sit here and DRM control things, right? I don't think they are. Funny thing, though, is that Prusa spools do have an NFC or an RFID tag in them. It is only currently used for production. There are some things that I know that I can't say anything further of. But, and it's funny because I made a very good guess, and I was not told that I was wrong. But I believe that DRM has a space in this world. Is it in the consumer market? No. If you're buying a $500 printer, it should not be locked into filament. If you're buying a $1,000 printer, it shouldn't be. If you are buying something under $10,000 for a 3D printer, you should not be locked into using a manufacturer's materials. If you're spending more than 10 grand, lock me in. It's fine. I understand. Because $10,000 is a very, very, very big purchase. I see the purpose of it. And I understand why companies want to do it. By utilizing in-house materials that we make, we know, we test, we certify, we have less problems. It makes sense. So what do you all think? I'm going to get some comments, then give you guys another 4 minutes. We will draw at 1:30. So another... no. Let's draw at 1:27. Or just turn 1:27. 1:28. I will give you 60 seconds to fill out that form if you want to potentially win some free filament from Printed Solid. There are many companies profiting from open source, like Red Hat. Yes, there are. But remember, these are big companies that don't have a lot of competition at the same scale. Okay? Now, Kabil, if you want to fund the open source development of a printer, we are happy to do that. We are happy to do all the work. We are happy to publish the documentation. But where we are with a company, we can't afford to just shut down and develop a printer. We don't have the money to do it. We are fully self-funded or bootstrapped, as they say. So it's not possible for us to go down that route currently. If we can find an investor that would like us to build something that is a Core XY open source, multi-tool head, multi-material, multi-color monster, hey, hit me up. We have the people to do it. We could easily do it. But it ain't going to be cheap. Our engineers aren't cheap. They're not cheap for a reason. It's because they're good. Closed source most of the time comes with a staff of tech support people. Yes, it does. Yeah, it does. Logo says even the target audience of a premium hot end and an AliExpress hot end are pretty different. Right. But if you're going to Amazon to look for a product, a lot of those AliExpress hot ends are sold as like V6. Okay. One of these V6s is real. The other one is a clone. They're not technically the same. They're quite different. This one's got copper block and everything, but this one is the clone one because that's not a color that E3D's ever made. This is a fully kitted out V6. It's just missing a diamond nozzle, but at the time, this was the best E3D V6 you could make. Aluminum heat break, or aluminum heat sink, titanium heat break, copper block, nozzle X. That's what this has. It's like $140 hot end. It's not cheap. I can totally get it if someone wants to go buy a stock V6. Stock V6 is like, what, $60? They want to go buy one from AliExpress for like $3. But that's where E3 loses its money. So, yeah. Da Vinci says, let's just hope they don't do what XYZ Printing did with the Da Vinci. It's funny that Da Vinci is talking about Da Vinci and went closed source. I hope that they don't, but Bamboo has every ability to do that. They have every ability. Mattis says how it is with Printed Solid shipping to the EU. That's actually in the, if you read the rules of the contest on the form, we talk about it. Yeah, if you're in the EU, you're going to have to pay a little extra. So, all right, I am closing responses. We have 57 people here entered into the contest. So let's go ahead and bring in all the people that are here. Shuffle it a few times. We'll give away just one more spool today, I think. We'll just do 2 this time around. Let's see. Wow, that's a first. The person who won can't do math. Sucks to suck. Okay. Moving on to the next one. I always check to see if they did the math right. They didn't. Is he here? Is Dio Mendez here? I wonder if he is. Diomedes, are you here? Yes, Diomedes. Do I say your name wrong? Okay, I see you. Holy crap. We see you. We got it. Yeah, you got it. No, Diomedes did not. The person that got bad math, I'm not going to say their name because I don't want to embarrass them. But I would like to remind you all, it is a multiplication test, not a addition test. That's all I got to say. I'm not going to say who did it. I can see them in the chat right now. So, yeah. It is not an addition test. It's a multiplication test. Anyways, Diomedes, hit me up on either Twitter or Discord, and we will go ahead and get you that roll of filament so you can go ahead and print with some awesome Jessie PLA or PETG. And huge thank you to Printed Solid for these giveaways. They are giving us a bunch of filament that we can give away every single month so that the peeps all around can enjoy what is the awesomeness of having made in America filament with American materials and American labor shipped to you directly for less than $20 a kilo. You gotta love it. Yes, Icephone Guy 500. I saw your Twitter DM. I have not gotten to the winners from Friday's video or Wednesday's video yet. I am behind because I was planning to go to Miami for my grandmother's birthday. I haven't gotten all the way to getting to everybody. So I will get to you. It's going to take a little bit of it. Berlin says, how many dyslexia people are in the chat? Let's find out. There are technically 3, but there's also one person that likes significant figures. There's one person that answered 42.000000000. Technically they're right, I guess, but yeah, 94.7% of you actually got it right. A couple of you did not. Anyways, that is all I have for you all today. I am going to send you over to Steve Builds. Make sure to leave a like on the stream. Get subscribed if you haven't. Thank you all for coming out and enjoying. But that is all we have for you all today. Stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. And, oh yeah, comment. Let me know about your thoughts on DRM in the comments, because the chat's almost done. Take care.